everyone, and welcome to the Empower Hour. It's Rodney Auger, Coach Rod, coming to you with another episode. This is something we do every Sunday morning, my time. It's 9 a.m. my time, a little after 9 a.m. And if you're watching this live, make sure to mark this on your calendar, something you can tap into every single week so you can be inspired and learn some things that will help you in your journey as you try to heal from leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's a big journey, right? Leaving a programmed way of thinking. It can give us a lot of issues as we move on with life. Today, we're going to be talking about the issue of esteem, self esteem. That is a major problem for most XJWs, just not thinking enough about themselves. Why is it? Why is this such an issue? When we look at our lives and we look down on ourselves and we don't feel like enough and we don't feel worthy enough. This is an issue that so many ex Jehovah Witnesses deal with. I remember when I was leaving right after I left the witnesses and I was going through my divorce and everything. It was hard to feel great about yourself. And the reason for that is, I think looking back, I still looked at myself through the lens of a witness. That's all I knew, right? You see yourself through the lens of a witness where people are not thinking the best thoughts about you, and your family's looking down on you and your ex-mate and sometimes your own children. And it's hard to feel good about yourself when you know that in the eyes of these people, the people that you love, it's just judgment, that they're really looking down on you, that they're really not respecting you, that they think that you are taking the wrong path in life. Or some people look at you as a dangerous person, or they put labels on you like apostate and worldly and all kinds of stuff. It's hard to feel good about yourself. And I remember just whenever I would have conversations with people who were still in that world, even though I was working to feel good about myself, it was hard when talking to them because I would suddenly see myself through their eyes. And that was a problem. I had to get over that. So sometimes realize that when you're dealing with the witnesses that still remain in your life, mainly family members, a lot of times you can look at yourself through their eyes because you remember how you viewed people who are in the position you're in now, and you look down on them. And remember, so much of how you see the world is based on your subconscious programming. Your subconscious mind really controls 90% of what happens in your life and how you think. It really does. And it's programmed mainly through repetition. So if your subconscious mind is programmed mainly through repetition, who programmed your mind? It was the witnesses. And just because you leave the religion, it doesn't mean that you leave that programming. It doesn't mean you lose the way that you think. A lot of us have 30, 40 years of programming, 30, 40 years of repetition. Even if it's less, even if it's 20 years, that's a lot. Just because you leave the religion, it doesn't mean you stop looking at life through those lenses. You still will look at life through those lenses of a witness. And you're programmed to look down on people who are in the position that you are today. So, yeah, it's hard to feel good about yourself. And I just remember those times it was tough. It was tough to look at myself the right way. I had to absolutely overwrite the way I thought, the way I looked at life in general, to change the way I saw myself, change the way I saw everything. I had to reprogram myself. Another reason why this is tough for a lot of ex-witnesses is because you were never you were never validated as an individual. You were never looked at as an individual. Your worth was based on your service in reference to the organization. You were never ever valued as an individual. And that's hard. Never looked at as an individual. We came from a religion of judgment. Everything was judging, even within the religion. You had spiritually strong people, spiritually weak people. You had a pecking order of things. You had people that would never get invited to just about anything. You had other people that were at every event, every gathering, every social thing. They're always there. The other people were not included because they weren't spiritually strong, what they called spiritually strong. But it was a place of judgment. And here's the thing: when you come from a place of judgment, what happens is when you're put in a position to be judged, you'll judge yourself harshly. And when were you ever recognized for you? And you can double and triple this for women, you know? When were you made to feel special? Why would you think anything? They try to convince you to think small about yourself. They try to convince you to give all your energy to them, to the organization, when it really should have been going to yourself. You were never encouraged to become the best version of you. Your talents, your gifts, the things that you felt a calling to do were deemed not important. So it's like invalidating yourself over and over and over again. But the way we get over this is we have to see that we are expanding, growing people, that we are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you've got to understand that people of that religion need to be invalidated. Their opinions need to be invalidated. That you've got to take some people off of the perch that you want to put them on. Not to disrespect people, but they should not be on that perch. Sometimes it's your mother and your father. You want your mother and father to be there. You want to look up to your mother and father. You want to honor what they say, but sometimes you got to take them off that perch because you've outgrown them. You've allowed yourself to grow to a higher level than where they are. You've got to see that. So even though you want to hold them in reverence, they're not growing. We have a hard time with our parents with this, where we see ourselves through their lenses. When they see something, when they say something, it cuts, because we want to honor our parents, but we have to see that we have outgrown them. That our parents were exactly the same people when we were little kids as they are right now. They haven't grown. You don't really grow in that religion. Keeps you from growing, right? And you will always be invalidated regardless of what you accomplish in your life. So start to have good thoughts about you. Ask yourself, why would I ever think lowly of myself? Look at all the good you do. Really, really focus on what's right in your life. For a lot of you, having esteem issues and worthiness issues is just a bad story. You couldn't even validate that story if you wanted to. You're good people. All of you here are good people. There are bad people in the world, and you're not one of them. Really, really honor who you are. Really, really honor and accept to yourself the good that you do. Look at yourself, pat yourself on the back sometimes when you know that you add value to people. Esteem is just a story you're telling yourself. You've got to invalidate those people who look down on you. Again, you'll never feel good if you're trying to get validation for people that won't give it to you. And that's not just with witnesses, that's with anyone. People have a hard time seeing beyond how they see themselves. I'll say that again. People have a hard time seeing beyond how they see themselves. So if they think lowly of themselves, they're going to try to keep everybody on that level with them. Why would you ever think small about yourself? Why would you ever think that you're not worthy of something? Of course you are. Just tell yourself a different story. Start treating yourself with worthiness, and how you take care of yourself, how you honor yourself, how you nurture yourself, your self-care. You have value. You are a precious, precious soul. Understand that. Don't let anyone take that away from you. A lot of times people are in religions like that because they lack proper esteem. They're in religions like that because they feel lost. Remember, witnesses prey on the vulnerable. They prey on the ones that their lives are kind of a mess. A lot of you can attest to what I'm saying. Some of you came in because you were going through something, that you felt lost in life and it felt like they had the answers. For some of you, it was your parents or their parents that came in that same way, where they felt lost. They didn't have any kind of self love. They didn't have any kind of direction. They didn't live a purpose driven life, and they needed something to hold on to. And that mindset can be passed on from generation to generation to generation. And that's the only thing they got. It's like it's something they're holding onto a flotation device in the ocean, right? They're just holding on to it because they don't know how to swim. You know how to swim. Don't let them judge you because you don't need the flotation device. You know how to swim, right? So see yourself in the proper light. The better you see yourself, the more good you'll do. When you see yourself as an impactful person, the more impact you'll make. If you see yourself as a person who makes a difference in this world, the more difference you will make. So start seeing yourself in the right light. If you're telling yourself a limited story, ask yourself, why am I telling this story? Try to validate it. Think about it. If you feel a lack of worthiness, why? For some of you, you're coming up with a mistake you made. Maybe you made a bad mistake in life, or you made some bad choices. Well, that's everybody, isn't it? And who could sit here and say that they've made all good choices in life? All of us have made bad choices. But when you're dwelling on the past, you're just bringing it into the future. You're just regurgitating it over and over again because really the past only exists in your head. If you extracted the lesson out of the mistake that you made, then the mistake is going to serve you. If you're beating yourself up over a mistake that you made, then that mistake is going to torment you. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has made bad choices in life. What do you do from it? Do you beat yourself up? As you beat yourself up, that you can't get the lesson at the same time. And that's something we were taught as witnesses was to beat ourselves up. When you're a witness and you get in trouble and you get judged and you get publicly shamed in front of the whole congregation, and everybody knows your business, that gives you a false sense of reality. Why? Because the people who get in trouble with the witnesses are usually the most honest ones. It's not like so many other people aren't doing junk. You know they are. Witnesses are full of double life people, full of it. But you were honest and you went and spoke to the elders. Now you're in trouble and people are looking down on you. And that's going on all through that congregation. The illusion that we used to believe that when we were in it, like everybody was like saints, that's a big hell to the no. They weren't. We just feel shame, and you may have been the honest one. You're the one that went before the elders and wanted some help, and you didn't receive help. You received judgment. So your brain starts to learn to think like that. It's thinking in a way of judgment, shame. They publicly shame you. That's a control tactic. They publicly shame you to control you, to instill you with fear. So after being in a religion where you watch people get shamed and you may have been shamed, then that whole self-judgment thing kicks in. Well, you're never good enough. No, you're human. Humans make mistakes. There's not a person that I could talk to that can't tell me, that will tell me that they didn't make a mistake, didn't make a horrible mistake in their life, didn't make horrible mistakes with an S in their life. No one can tell me that. It's part of being human. But the question is, what did you learn? When you beat yourself up, when your esteem is low, when you're really judgmental on yourself, then when you make a mistake, you fall backwards. You fall way backwards. When you look at mistakes the proper way, then you fall forward. You actually are moving forward in life because of the mistake, because of what you learned from it. If you look at it the right way, it should propel you, not knock you backwards. Different way of seeing things. Everyone has the seeds of greatness in them. Part of why ex-witnesses can struggle with esteem issues is the invalidation of what is amazing about you. If your gifts and talents were cast to the side, if you were forced to do things that you did not want to do, if the authentic you was constantly invalidated, of course you feel like that. But now is the time to look at yourself and to say to yourself, this is what makes me awesome. There's no shame in saying, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. That's not It's not a negative thing. When you're a witness, you're taught to not think so much about yourself. You should think well about yourself, and you should think well about the person next to you. You should understand what you do well in life. You should understand the gifts that you bring, what your superpowers are. And then you should see the person next to you. The world is a better place if we all elevate, isn't it? It's not a better place if we look down on others and look down on ourselves. It's a better place where we know where we're gifted, where we know where we're blessed. It's a better place when we can look at our blessings and we can live in a state of gratitude. Gratitude is when we honor the places in the areas of life that we're blessed and we recognize it and we're grateful for it. I found that when I was going through that difficult time of life where I was struggling with, some of that self worth, I found that that was the most selfish I'd ever been because everything was about me, right? My woes and the witnesses did this to me and this person screwed me over. And I became a victim for a short amount of time before I snapped out of that, where I was pointing fingers, pointing fingers, pointing fingers, blaming others. All my conversations were about my life. I wasn't looking at where I could add value to the lives of others. And sometimes when you are down and out, you can be the most selfish that you've ever been because all the focus is on you. Who's screwing you over? What's gotten you in this position? Me, 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 me. But when you come out of that, you're looking at where can I add value to people? What's awesome about how I'm made up? What can I do to put a smile on somebody else's face? What can I do to help lift someone else up? And for you to do that effectively, you've got to think well about yourself. You can't add value. You can't be giving to people from an empty well. You have to know that my well is deep, that I have much to share, that I have much to enrich the lives of others. Okay, so again, it's all about you finding your personal power. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone should find their personal power. It's all about you understanding that your mind can create whatever you can conceive. What you can conceive up here, you can hold in your hands. You are a creator. And the more awesome you see yourself and the more you in your power, then the more these things are going to really appear in your life. The things that you want will appear in your life because you're training your mind to look for these things. You're training your mind to to accept these things as true. You got three components of your mind: your conscious, your subconscious, and what's called your creative subconscious or your super subconscious. Your super subconscious, its job is to make you correct about whatever you believe subconsciously. So if you really have the belief that you're not good enough, then that super subconscious mind is looking for proof that you're not good enough. It's always trying to make you right. So if you feel you're not good enough, it's going to say, "Oh, and that's why, and that's why. Oh, that's another reason why I'm not good enough. Oh, that's I suck there too." It's looking to validate you because that's what your belief is and that's where your focus is. But when your focus is on, you know what, this is where I'm gifted, this is what I bring to the planet, this is where I add value, this is where I'm great, my greatness lies here. And when you think like that, then your mind is looking for evidence that, yeah, that's you're good at that. Yeah, you do that well. Yeah, yeah, you make a difference here. Yeah, yeah, you're pretty awesome here. And the mindset shifts. And now you're in your power. Now, when you get to that place and you're in that kind of power, Now see what it's like when you deal with your family, when you deal with JWs that may be in your life. What will happen is you just have a whole different flow. You're in your power. You're not in a place of weakness. You're in your power. You're always growing. You're always getting bigger. You're always expanding. Even when you make a mistake, it'll feel like you just tripped a little bit. It won't feel like you just got knocked out. You just got, you start making better decisions in life. This is awesome. It's in every single one of you. Make a decision that you're going to make a conscious effort to move away from the limited thinking of the Jehovah's Witnesses. The witnesses must keep you thinking small because that's how you control people. You cannot control people if you show them their power. You cannot control people if you help them to expand and to see that what they're really capable of. You cannot control people if you show them that they are the creators of their own experiences. You can't control people that way. So they must keep you small because small people are easy to control. Now you know the difference. Begin to think differently. Your life will always reflect how you think. So today, most of our panel is out busy. We just have Gary today, so we're gonna bring up Gary, and we're just gonna chop it up here, um, and you see the rest of our panel next week. But how you doing, Gary?
Good, good. Yeah.
All right. What do you got to share on the topic?
Well, I just was thinking about my experience when I was in, which is always different from everybody else's, But it always seemed to me that I never really had a big gripe with the witnesses in general. I didn't really disagree with any of the doctrines. It wasn't until the end when I saw how they were treating people that was wrong, But I still believed all the doctrines. So there's things I didn't agree with, but it wasn't a major. And I always thought that they went right down the middle of everything, like right a balance. Everything was in balance. Um, so it took a really long time to realize when they talk about humility, and we're not talking about humility here really. We're talking about self-esteem. They're two different things, but they're connected. But I don't know if it's because the governing body mixes them up, or it's just the way speakers talk, but it gets jumbled up. Where humility is a good quality. I mean, who wants to be around somebody that's so proud that he's just always making you feel like garbage because he's better than you? And humility is a good thing, but they get it mixed up with lack of self-esteem. Like if you think too much of yourself, that's a problem. And I always thought that's balance. That's cool. But actually, when you think about it, it's not balanced. They because they always see what I would do is every once in a while you'd have a speaker come along that would present something just a little bit differently. For example, there's a scripture, I think it's in Romans, I forget really, but where it says, "Don't think too much of yourself, don't think more than yourself as is necessary," or something like that. So they'd read that, and that would be like, you got to be humble, you got to be humble. But then once in a while, you get maybe 1 out of 10 speakers that would say, "You see, it says, don't think too much more than yourself than is necessary." So it is necessary to think something of yourself. And then, so, that speaker would be balanced and say, or, what I thought was balanced and say, like, well, it is necessary to think that we're capable of things and think that we're important and everything. It's just don't think too much. So I always thought, like, yeah, this is a balanced organization. And it took me a really long time to realize, like, actually, it's not. That was the rare speaker that would say something like that. Most of them would just go right off into right field or left field, whatever it is, and talk. And it comes down to that word that I was waiting for you to use, that word small. It makes you feel small. And we're not small. You might be a better speaker than me. I might be better at something else than you. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you're a better person or I'm a better person than you. It just means I have a talent that you don't have as much as me. So that's not hard to figure out. We don't have to be beaten constantly in order to come to that conclusion that humility means not thinking too much of yourself. So I don't know. I think it's a matter of balance. I mean, I see a lot of in the JW community, at least in the initial phases, because a lot of times we become reactive and we're just like, what can we do that we were never allowed to do before? How can we think that we were always prevented thinking? And I do see some that say this whole idea of like feeling guilty. I'm never going to feel guilty about anything again. I'm not going to be humble about anything ever again because it was so exaggerated and so off into left field. But it is important to realize that I think the main thing is to not let yourself feel small. That I love the fact that you use that word. It's because we are, every one of us is big. I'm not bigger than you. Every one of us is important and big. I'm going on a bit because I know we have time for it, but yeah, that's to me the main thing is that we the balance is important to achieve. Like the recognize the difference between humility and self esteem. They're not identical, and have both. Have self esteem and have humility.
People confuse confidence with conceit.
Hmm.
They're not the same thing. You'll never be great with about anything. You'll never be great at anything if you don't accept that you have a gift. To accept you have the gift, you have to be confident. The problem with organizations, the high control organizations, is they'll take something like scripture and they will interpret it for you.
Hmm.
That's for you to interpret for yourself, you see, because everybody's different. So believing, not thinking. Well, how did you put that scripture?
Oh, not think more than yourself that is necessary. I
Right,
think that's how it says it.
right, something like that. Right. That's relative, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there are things in life for us to accomplish. You have to think a lot of what you think.
Hmm.
Inventors must think a lot about what they think to invent something. You have to think a lot about your ideas if you're the Wright brothers, right? I mean, we would be in the dark ages if that was the way they perceive that. If we all took that viewpoint, we'd be in the dark ages, right? So again, that's part of control. That's how you control people.
Hmm.
There's a greatness in everyone. There's gifts and talents that we all were given. And a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit for it. I remember when I was a child, I was really fast. No one could catch me. I was a fast kid in school. And I didn't realize how much of a talent that was. I was a little kid. I was like, why don't you just move your legs faster? Why do you all run so slow? I didn't understand why everybody was so slow, right? But that was a talent.
Hmm.
For some people, you might be the person that all your girlfriends come to for advice. Well, that's a talent. There's a reason why they go to you. Somebody else, math. It's amazing how some people's brains are like calculators, right? And it's like, wow, how did you figure that up in your brain? I still count my fingers and toes. I'm like a little kid when it comes to math, right? So
Yeah.
everyone's got something. For
Yeah.
me, speaking's easy. I don't even really have to prepare most times to speak. It just my mind works really fast while I'm speaking, and I can get on a stage, and it's really easy for me to do that. That's my gift and talent, um,
Hmm.
amongst other things that I can do well. But for some people, it's music. You'll watch little kids pick up instruments like that because they're just blessed with that. So it's not about thinking small. It's about stepping into your gift. Humility is um, when you can accept people who are trying to make you better. When you see someone who's better than you at what you're gifted at, it takes humility to learn from a person like that.
Hmm.
Humility is when you understand that that person over there has a talent greater than yours. It allows you to step back in times, right? It's when you can see the greatness in others. Is the world a
Hmm.
better place if I think little about myself and break down other people and gossip about other people and find the flaws in other people and I find the flaws in myself, which is how most of society operates? Is the world a better place if we live like that, or is the world a better place if I see what's amazing within myself
Hmm.
and then I see what's amazing within Gary,
Hmm.
right? And you come together, and then when you got things to do together, those two talents mix, and everything comes up. And then you bring the next person, and everything comes up again. But when you're in a high control group like the witnesses, everyone's held down, and you got this governing body or leaders above you keeping you from rising up.
Hmm.
So just shed the thinking, understand that, when you have a calling in you, when you have things that you feel like you really want to do in life, when your intuition is pulling you a certain way in life, start to listen to that inner voice. Start to acknowledge that you have a gift, things that come easy to you. For some people, it's cooking. They got a magical tongue. They just, I need some paprika. How do you know that? How did you know? Like, how does your tongue know what spice needs to go in that? Talent,
Hmm.
a gift. Painters sometimes it's like, wow, just why did you put blue on his nose? People don't have blue on their nose. Somehow you knew. Need some blue there. How did you know that? That's a gift. You, Gary, being a musician, is talented as you are. Don't you run into musicians sometimes? You're like, oh my gosh,
Oh yeah,
wow,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And you know what you said a minute ago about learn from people, and that's where the humility comes in. I've been saying that for years, that I really like to play with musicians that are better than me, because they I learn from them, and they drive me. Because like especially drummers, if a drummer does something really cool, I'm just like, whoa, what the heck was that? And I feel like I need to respond to that. I feel like I need to, he just did something really crazy. I got to do something to make this music happen, because it's all part of just being part of the whole music thing. You're just doing your part, and it makes me better. I don't really like playing with where, like, once in a while I think, you know what, I'm probably the best musician in the room, and I'm not happy about that. I mean, I don't like to say who's better than, who's the best. I really don't get into that. But once in a while, it just occurs to me that there's really nobody here to play with that is going to really drive me to the next level. And when I do get, I'm not necessarily wanting to be the worst musician in the room, but I like it when there's a couple of people that are clearly better than me, even if they're way up in the stratosphere, way past me. I I've been telling the story for a while now of when I was in England, and I was trying to penetrate this jazz thing a little bit more, because I was never really. I'm okay on the piano with jazz, but I was trying to play guitar, and I was never really good at it, at playing jazz. And one night, I just had a whole bunch of things happened that motivated me to take this guy up on the offer of a guitar lesson or two. Well, I mean, I'm like, I don't know, I'm like 60 years old or something at this point, and this kid is like maybe 24. I didn't Probably not even 24. And I'm just like, yeah, yeah, definitely. What is it, 30 pounds? Okay, great. And he taught me a bunch of stuff that I kind of knew but didn't know, but a bunch of things, and I'm better for it. I don't care if he's 24. I don't care if he's 12 years old. What's the difference? So I mean, that's where humility is just realizing that somebody has a talent you don't have, and do what you can to absorb it. But
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you are being very realistic. I mean, and I think this is the part where people sometimes feel bad when they say it, right? But you're being very realistic when you said sometimes I'm the best musician in the room. That's just a fact. You're not bragging.
Yeah,
That's just a
right, right,
fact. Like when you
right,
know when you're not, then you know when you're not, right?
right.
If everyone's better than you, you know when it happens like that too. So it's better to just be honest and just that's fake. We have a lot of fake humility, I think, as coming from that
Hmm.
background where we want to. I don't want to. This sounds wrong. It doesn't matter if it sounds wrong or not. Just be realistic about what is.
Yeah, yeah. That fake humility. There was another word for that. But I remember hearing another phrase for that years ago. But yeah, false humility is a real thing, and sometimes people that get depressed. This is another topic altogether, I guess. But people that get depressed, you think that, oh my God, they just they need to think more of themselves. It is possible for a I mean, look at how many um, narcissists go through periods of depression. And their problem is that they think way too much of themselves. They want everybody to think that they're the greatest thing on earth and be the center of attention. So that's where the false humility comes in, and the witnesses are prone to that, because it's a completely scrambled teaching, and we have to get away from it. I was just thinking, this might seem unrelated at first, but something else you talked about, because I know we almost always mention the women in particular because we all receive the same treatment, but women more so because of being marginalized as not even capable of leading a family and all this crap, you know. Um, so I use that example, and I don't know, it was a video I did a while ago, but I use that example of what you were talking about before, where we still see things through the JW lens, whether we realize it or not. Because so let's say you're I don't know, let's say you're a 45-year-old woman, just pick an age, you know, your situation has changed. Now you know maybe the kids are leaving the nest, and for whatever reason you need to increase your income and get a better foothold in the working world. And you know better than to accept all any of the witness garbage that says you can't be the manager of this place or you can't do this. You just have to have a clerical job and don't, you know, just take what they give you and don't worry about increasing your salary too much. You know that that's nonsense because you know it all comes from the witness way of thinking. But what happens when you're actually offered the possibility of actually getting a higher position where you're going to manage this whole office, let's say, and that's where these that can trigger this self-doubt thing that we really might still have in our head, even though the teachings that are behind that are laughable to us at this point. We can still have that feeling come back that yeah, I'd love to do that, but I don't know. And then we start making excuses about, well, I wouldn't really have time for that because on Friday night I really like to get together with so and so to play cards, and we're just making excuses for not seizing the bull by the horns, whatever that expression is. So I mean, it's a personal choice, whatever we do, but I think it's good to recognize what you were talking about before that we might still see things through the JW lens, even though we've abandoned the teachings that have produced that that viewpoint because it's stuck in us, it's in our head, and we still haven't proved to ourselves that we're actually capable of some really powerful things.
So remember, we always, the mind, the super subconscious mind is like a regulator. It's trying to maintain your comfort zone all the time. Okay.
Hmm.
And here's your ceiling and here's your floor. It's trying to keep you right in here all the time. Now, this was set when you were a Jehovah Witness. It's trying to keep you in this space of what has been you all the time. Now, what happens is if life takes you below the floor of your comfort zone, say you lose your job and some things happen in your life and now you've been relegated to live in an area of town that's unacceptable for you, that's below the standard of life that you've had, and your standard of living goes below the standard that you once had. What's going to happen is you're gonna something's gonna kick in, and you're going to do whatever you got to do. If you got to work 3 jobs, you work 3 jobs. You're out of your comfort zone, you're below your comfort zone, you'll do anything to come back in it. Okay, because this is below what's acceptable. This is how the human mind works. Now this is your ceiling. If for some reason something propels you above your ceiling, maybe a job promotion, or maybe you fall into some money, or maybe whatever it is that has you living above your ceiling, then you normally sabotage yourself. And then you come up for reasons why you can't do something, or you screw up the best relationship you've ever had, or you go and screw up the job, or you screw up whatever it is, so you come back here. And that's what happens. It's never a conscious thing, it's a subconscious thing, and you make
Hmm.
excuses for it. Um, the key of life is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Listen to what I'm saying, everybody watching. The key is to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. The stretch. When you go to the gym, your muscles only grow if you stretch it, if you push it. What you want in life is always outside of your comfort zone. If it was within your comfort zone, you'd already have it. So you already know it's a stretch. So what you must become comfortable doing is making your ceiling your new floor. And when you make this switch, it's going to be uncomfortable for a moment of time until this becomes your comfort zone. Now you no longer can go back here. If you go back here, you do anything you got to do to come back here. And you keep doing that in life, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now, when you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, it makes other people uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Caterpillars don't relate to butterflies. It makes other people uncomfortable. So
Mhm.
when you get done pulling yourself back down, when you get done to, not sabotaging yourself anymore, people around you will tend to try to do it for you because you're making them uncomfortable with your light shining too bright.
Mhm.
Understand that. When your light shines bright, it makes other people uncomfortable. That's why in life you got to get comfortable with letting people go as you grow. I'm not
Mhm.
saying to kick them out of your life, but they're not going to have the same position, the same reverence. They're not going to play the same role as they once played as you grow. So
Yeah.
allow yourselves to grow, my friends.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you find, because after you leave the JWs, there it becomes a very small part of your association, if not completely out of it. With me, I never talk to any JWs. I haven't in years, so I don't work with any of them. I don't see them on the street, and and if we tend to pin everything on the JWs, like they're the reason for this, they're the reason for that. The fact is, the world is not 100% um, what's the word? I'm like non-hostile. We have to find a balance between the fear of the world, where it's like, oh my God, I can't work with these people, the way we were taught by the JWs, and the idea that, hey, I'm out of the JWs now, everything's going to be a free ride for them. I mean, nobody's really going to think that way, but my point is that let's say we're talking about a job, advancing our career. There's probably going to be somebody that's competing for that same job, and they're going to be doing some nasty things behind your back. This is the reality of life. So you're going to hit snags, you're going to hit obstacles, but it's important to remember what you were just saying, that the reason people do stuff like that is because they have self-esteem issues. I was just talking to somebody that's living with me now that we met working at the same restaurant, about how there are people there that just hate me, hate her, because why nobody knows. It's like why they always make so much trouble. But I really think it's because they're jealous, because they see that you just put your nose to the grindstone and you do your work, and you're not trying to get in anybody's way. You're just trying to do your job, and you're not trying to compete with anybody, and it makes them look bad. Just what you just said. It makes them uncomfortable. So yeah, we got to just recognize that the world's not a perfect place. It's a whole lot better than being in the JWs, of course, but there's nothing to fear. But it's not perfect. So when we hit snags and obstacles, I mean, I know people in this group that I always think of one particular friend of mine that is going for a degree, and I always forget what it is, but it has something to do with therapy and psychology and everything. And oh my God, always reporting on her progress. And once in a while, it's a report about how this sucks, man. This, it's just this obstacle just came up. What am I going to do? That's the way life is. There's always going to be something in your way, but just don't expect it to be a perfect playing field, and be and always be balanced about it, and not, because again, I always harp on this, and I maybe I do it too much, but I always get nervous when I hear people blame all of their problems, everything that's going on in their life is because of the Jehovah's Witnesses, because of the way they treated you. You know what? It might be 99% of your problems. It might be 80% of your reason for, but it can't be the only thing, because there's things that happen all over the place. So it's good to again, get rid of that JW lens in every sense of the word. Don't ever look at things through their eyes again, and just see it for what it is, and have the confidence in yourself that you can do these things.
Yeah, the world's not fair. Planet Earth was not designed to be fair. It's
Right.
challenging by design. And if it's not one thing, it's another thing, right? So it's about taking responsibility for your life, regardless of what's in front of you. It's the challenges in life that make you who you become. It's when you get challenged that you become a bigger version of yourself. You're either going to shrink back or you're going to grow through it. And I always look forward to the man I'll be on the other side of each challenge. So I'm challenged by it, and it's not something I necessarily look at as a negative in life. When you get through challenges and you look at your life and you look back Although you don't want to go through the same thing again, I wouldn't change very much about what happened because it makes me the person I am today. You'll find that there are times in life that you went through something and it humbled you. And you look at why you're humble today, where that humility came from, right? And you're like, oh, I'm grateful for that experience. You know, for instance, I had a 20-year stretch of just, really being successful in business. And then I lost it all. I took a tremendous fall
Yeah.
off my mountaintop, right? Very humbling experience. But in the position I am today, running this group and doing what I do today, I can relate to people or coaching as many people as I do today. I can relate to what they're going through, and the person I was probably couldn't. I'd probably just say, you know what, pull up your bootstraps, and you're just not focused enough, you're not working hard enough. No, I know what it's like now to be mentally messed up. I know what it's like to lose your confidence. I know what it's like to have to get yourself back after getting knocked down. I get it. So it makes me far more compassionate. So do I um wish it never happened? No, I'm glad it happened because it made me a better person. Do I want to go through it again? Hell no. I got the
Yeah.
lessons.
Right.
Let's
Right.
not do that again.
Right.
Okay. But in life, look at it that way. Your challenges are to make you a better version of you. You're either going to shrink or you're going to come through it and you're going to be the best version of yourself, a better version of you, a tougher version of you on the other side of it.
Yeah,
So
I was thinking that when you were talking about tests earlier in your part, of how taking a test, the first time you take a test when you're in school, maybe it's first or second grade, I don't know, they give you a math test or something like that. And some people think that the object of that is to get the best grade possible so you can go home with a great report card to mom and dad. Well, yeah, that's nice, if you can do that. But this is the first time that little Johnny has taken any kind of test. So he's not just learning about math, he's learning about how to take a test. He's learning how to learn. So a test, if it's done right, if it's put together right and it's and administered properly, it should be part of the educational system, of the educational process, not just testing to see whether you're capable of going on to the next grade. It should be teaching us something. So that means we're going to fail a test once in a while, doesn't it? I mean, of course, once in a while. I mean, you might be a math whiz and never fail a math test. That's great, but in life, when once I mean, I think about when I became a financial advisor, the tests that you have to go through are so incredibly difficult and grueling, and they are designed to keep you out of the business. They're designed to make sure we don't get any people that aren't really perfect candidates. We got to keep them out of this business. And you never learn a darn thing from those tests because you can't go back and find out what did you get wrong. If I take it again, what do I have to brush up on? There's no way to find out. So those tests are really badly designed because they're not part of the educational process. Well, tests in life are not really like that. They really are designed to make you a better person, like you said. And don't be concerned if you failed something and maybe you really did screw something up. Maybe it was a badly put together test, or maybe you really like, wow, I wasn't ready for that. Okay, fine. You'll be ready for the next one. Whatever.
yeah, it's important to really learn from your failures, understanding that failures are your greatest teacher. In high control religions and judgmental religions like the witnesses, what happens is when you fail, they focus on the incident that you're being punished for. They're not really focused on, where your mind got you to get you there. The problem is that's not the problem. That's a symptom. It's a symptom of a bigger problem. And what happens is people fall into not fixing the real problem, and they do this over and over again. Oh, you're not repentant, and there's a lot of punishment that goes with it. When the real problem is something else. You're never going to fix a problem by focusing on the symptom, right? You got to get to the root of it. Why somebody is depressed, or sometimes someone is looking for validation because of a lack of it from somewhere else. You got to get to the root of it. But regardless of if you've made a mistake or not, or let's just say when you do make a mistake, if you learn from it, if you get to the root of it, then you can move differently in life. So just get challenged by it. If there's something in life that you're trying to get a hold of, get challenged by it. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm not gonna focus on the symptom. I'm gonna focus on what leads me down this road. I'm gonna focus to the void in my life that I'm trying to fill with this. Never, never think less of yourself, regardless of what you've done in the past and where you are. Never think less of yourself. Remember, we operate to the level of our self belief, not our potential. Our potential is irrelevant if our self belief is below it. So understand that every day is a brand new day. Yesterday exists only in your minds. Yesterday exists in your minds. And if you focus on it, then you recreate yesterday and you do it again today. But every single day you get to push the reset button. And all history is good for is the lessons it provides you so you can make better choices today to get better results tomorrow. So we're gonna wrap this one up. Gary, thank you for being on.
Yeah.
For
Thank
waiting for
you.
you. I'd be all by my lonesome today.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
okay.
everyone's out. Everyone's out. We're stepping into the summer, so everyone's probably having a good time today. But we'll have a full panel back next week.
Yeah. And if I could
All
just say one last thing, since I
right.
am the only one here, I say a lot of things and talk about what I know and everything, but I always learn something from these, just like everybody does.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, because you do your job really well, but it's just because all the panelists. I mean, I don't know, Debbie, everybody. I always learn. I'm a panelist, yeah, but I'm always learning from everybody.
Right.
So yeah, so that's what life is, right?
Right. Right. You can be a teach. You can be a student and a teacher at the same time. In fact,
Right.
we all should be students and teachers at the same time. Neither one ever ends.
Hmm.
All right, so everyone, enjoy your Sunday fun day. Thank you for joining us live, and thank you for those watching on the replay. Everyone, go and make it a magnificent day. Make each day your masterpiece. See you next week.